Welcome, everyone, to Robin's Nest, episode 8. In the spirit of full disclosure, I need to tell you all that this is the second time I am recording this episode because your girl forgot to hit record. So, yeah, I talked to myself for the first 25 minutes before I realized what had happened. So, yeah. In addition to that, my car flooded. I'm in Florida and my car flooded. And it's just been that kind of day. My car is totaled. Anyway, welcome to Robin's Nest. I can't believe we're on episode 8 already. For those of you that are new, my name is Robin Kevles-Nekowitz, and I am a licensed psychotherapist and parenting coach in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania. And I am the author of the book, Go Take a Bath, A Powerful Self-Care Approach to Extraordinary Parenting. I have been married for 23 years, and I have 2 daughters, ages 18 and 21. And I started this podcast to talk about all things that I'm passionate about in life, including parenting, world peace, politics, marriage, friendship, spirituality, feminism, and food. You can listen to this podcast anywhere you stream podcasts. I'm everywhere: Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Overcast, Spotify. Pick your poison. And if you prefer to watch it on YouTube, you can do that too by searching Robin's Nest Podcast. So today I'm doing something totally different, and I'm doing a Q&A by popular demand. So I asked people to send in questions, and I am actually going to just read the questions in the order that I received them and answer them for everybody. Number 1, we've heard you have a husband, but have never heard him on the pod. Does he really exist? Signed, Anonymous. Okay, first of all, I'm pretty sure this came directly from my husband. He's pretty upset that I have not had him on the pod, especially because I had the rest of the family on the pod. But in fairness, I did the pod with my 2 daughters for the first 2 episodes. And by the time I got to the 3rd episode, I really didn't think people wanted to hear from another Nekowitz. So then I got distracted with all the world events and current events and all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah, he got pushed back, but he'll be on the pod. I promise he will be here. My best friend hasn't been on the pod either, so she'll be on soon too. Question number 2, how do you set boundaries for yourself so you don't become overwhelmed with the pain you see in your clients and the pain you see in the world? Well, this is a lot easier with clients than it is the pain that I see in the world, because I learned a long time ago with clients that I need to have boundaries in order to best serve them. So that's how I got around that. In order for me to really be present with clients, I need to take exquisite care of myself. So I am 100% present in the sessions that I'm having with a client, but I'm not quite as easily accessible when I am not with the client because I need to take care of myself in my off hours. So because I know that it's best for the client to be able to separate their pain from my own pain, it's just something that I've been doing for so long that it's second nature to me now. However, the second part of the question is harder. How do I set boundaries with myself about the pain in the world? Yeah, I'm not that good at that. I get very overwhelmed with the pain of the world. And if you go back to previous podcasts, you kind of know that about me already. With clients, it's very time limited, right? I'm only working a couple days a week. And by design, I only see about 10 to 12 clients a week. Hand-selected clients that I have decided to work with, and ones that I feel would overwhelm me, I just don't take on as clients. And so because I've chosen to take on these clients and I've committed to them, and because I know that it's only a few hours, 10 to 12 hours a week, I'm able to be fully present and separate out where their pain is and where my pain is, and not have it all get mushed together and feel overwhelmed by that. But as I said, that the world issues is a whole other story, because that's coming at me from all sides at all times. So I'm not able to prepare myself quite as well. So I don't have a good answer for that because I don't do it very well. So I'm still working on that. I do pray a lot, and I do meditate, and I do take a lot of walks, and I walk in nature, and all of those things really help me stay grounded, but it's not enough. It's not enough. I need to do more. Question number 3. What made you decide to go out on your own to start your own practice? Why did you leave agency work? What hurdles did you face? And did you start out specializing in parenting, or did that evolve? So I had always planned my whole life, or since I decided to become a therapist, I always knew I was going to be in private practice. Um, Probably because my personality is such that I never imagined that I would work for somebody else for very long. I have a very strong personality. I'm an Aries, for those of you that follow astrology. I'm kind of a do-it-yourselfer. I like margin charge. I kind of do things my own way, and I want to control my life in the way I want to control it. I don't want to have to ask permission to take a day off, and that kind of thing. So I always knew that I would be in private practice, even when I started my career at the very beginning. But you have to really work in agency work to get the experience that you need in order to start a practice. But very, very early on, in my early to mid 20s, I already went into private practice, even though I only saw 1 or 2 clients a week. And then I worked full time in agency work. And then, as time went on, and eventually when I got married in 1997 and I didn't need health benefits anymore, I was able to make the leap into full time private practice. It's hard to make that leap into private practice because you're going from a full-time job with full-time benefits to a job that you don't get paid if you don't work, if you don't have clients, you don't have a steady income, you don't have health insurance, you don't have sick leave, a 401k, paid holidays off. You don't have any of that. It's a big leap of faith. And it's really a bet that you're making on yourself, that you feel like you have something to offer the world, and that the world will eventually, figure that out and show up. And I'm kind of ballsy, and I'm a risk taker. And so I did it, and it worked. The scariest time of my career as it relates to private practice was when I started private practice long before managed care came onto the scene. And all of my colleagues were joining panels to take insurance. And for the same reasons I can never imagine working for somebody else, those were the same reasons I didn't think I could actually be beholden to insurance companies. I didn't want an insurance company telling me that I needed to finish up with a client in 3 sessions, or I didn't want to feel like I had to justify why I was continuing to see somebody to an insurance company. So I made a really, really, really big leap into choosing not to take insurance or be on any in-network insurance panels. And that was probably the biggest risk I took in my career, which also paid off. But that was a scary, scary one. What hurdles did you face? I already answered that. Did you start out specializing in parenting, or did that evolve? That did evolve. My early career started in drug and alcohol. I still do a lot of work with drug and alcohol. I actually really enjoy working with drug and alcohol clients, and all the issues surrounding families with drug and alcohol. But what happened was I was working at the Horsham Clinic in 1988, something like that. And I was working on an adolescent unit. And I really loved working with adolescents and substance abuse clients. And then I left Horsham Clinic, and I went to a place called Today Incorporated, which was a drug and alcohol rehab and a halfway house for adolescents. And this, again, is back in the day before insurance companies, before managed care, I mean. And so the kids would stay there for a very long period of time, 90 days plus. And after they were done treatment, they would go home, and we would have to do these follow-up. I can't remember what they used to call them, but we had to call them at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to see how they were doing. And I was really, really saddened to hear that they were not doing well, even though I knew that they had all the skills they needed to stay sober. And so I really started looking into that and digging deeper and researching, why are they not making it? And I realized that it was because we were sending them back to the exact toxic, triggering situation that they came from that got them to start using drugs in the first place. So then I got very interested in family work. And I realized that I would be a lot more effective if I really went to the source of the issue. Drug and alcohol abuse is really more of a symptom of a problem. It's not the cause. It's not the real, core issue. So when I started working with families and parents, and I started to see that the kids were getting well and staying well, I was hooked because I like to see my work. I like to be very efficient and effective. It is both a gift and also my greatest liability as a therapist. I tend to move quicker sometimes than people are ready to go. But I really wanted to see my work succeed. And I wanted to see my clients succeed. And I found that I got much better results working with families than I did with working with a child, or what we call in the business, the identified patient of the family, who was the one acting out when really it's a systemic issue. So that's how I got involved in parenting. Question number 4, interested in your thoughts on parenting in the age of COVID. For example, my husband and I never allowed our 11-year-old son to play Fortnite. But quarantine came and our son made a well thought out argument for why he should be able to play, and we relented. We felt like we needed to give him this gift amidst the upheaval of his normal life. Curious if you've heard what other parents are doing regarding concessions made during this time. So this is a tricky question. I have very mixed feelings about this. So I'm going to start with my pre-COVID answer and my post-COVID answer. My pre-COVID answer would be that we need to be really conscious about setting limits with our kids around video games and social media. I don't think it's good for us. I don't think it's good for their little developing brains. I think it's a terrible, terrible habit to get started. There's so much in life to go look at. We don't need to be sitting in front of a screen all the time. So I really believed, past tense, before COVID, that we really needed to set an enormous amount of limits around screen time. Then COVID came and parents are going out of their minds. And we really need to just get through this time. This is completely unprecedented, and we really need to just focus on survival. And if survival for you is putting your kid in front of Fortnite for hours and hours and hours, do it. It is much better for your child to be sitting in front of a screen than it is for him to be dealing with a parent who's screaming and carrying on because, they're at their wits' ends because they don't know what to do with their kid, and their kid is bored, and days are going by and weeks are going by and you're just getting more and more aggravated. That's not good. I'd much rather see them in front of a TV. And yes, many parents are making that concession, and I really encourage you to do it without guilt. This is a crazy, 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 crazy time that we're living in, and I really just want you to survive it and keep your expectations of yourself and your children very low. Okay, question number 5. What is your favorite part of having a podcast? I think my favorite part of having a podcast has been having guests on and sharing these wonderful souls with the world. I'm very blessed to have many wonderful people in my life who have influenced me in lots of ways. My children have been my greatest teachers, and they were episode 1 and 2. And then we had, I think Lori was next, and she's just a wise, wise woman who has a lot to offer. And I think she was episode 3 and 4. And then my friend Bonnie does all kinds of social justice work, and she's amazing. And she was episode 5. And then I believe Mahan Rishi was number 6, who's kind of my spiritual guru, who I think is just an incredible human walking the earth and has so much to offer. And then last week, of course, we had Barbara Simmons from the Peace Center, and I thought she was incredibly timely in trying to heal our nation and ourselves. So I have so many people that I really just want to share, what I get from all of them. with the world. So that's my favorite part of having a podcast, being able to share. Okay, number 6. Why did you start the podcast now? What motivated you? Was it the election that fired you up? Empty nest syndrome? Something that you needed to fill the space? Racial justice and social issues coming to a head this past summer? Pandemic? Why now? Well, for sure, I can tell you it was not empty nest syndrome. As anyone who was close to me will tell you, including my children, I am loving my empty nest. I love these kids to death. I have loved parenting them. I have poured my heart and soul into doing it well. And now I'm tired. I need a nap and I need some space. So I'm really happy to have an empty nest. And the kids will be coming back very soon, for Thanksgiving break, and they'll be home for several months because they're going to be going back to school. They're in college late because of COVID, and I'm thrilled to death about having them home for a couple of months, and then I will be thrilled to death to send them back. So I'm really, really happy with this particular time in my life. So it definitely wasn't to fill this space. I would say the real reason that I started it was because over the course of my career as a therapist, I've always liked to do something different every once in a while. Some examples are when my youngest daughter was born in 2002, I decided to become a real estate agent just for fun, no real reason. I really just wanted to see how people lived and move and look at their homes. So I became a real estate agent so I'd have access to their houses. And then most recently, probably about 3 years ago, I became a Lyft driver just because I wanted to get out of my office and into the street and talk to people and find out why they don't have a car, why they needed a ride, and to keep it kind of simpler than the kind of work I do, for my day job. So I was looking for something new. I'm always looking for something new to do that keeps me interested and fresh and excited about things. And my daughter Arlie started a podcast with her best friend Carly called Growing Pains. It's excellent. I highly recommend it. Also streaming everywhere. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I could have a podcast. That'd be fun. So that's kind of how it started. And it also fills the space for me of being able to express a lot of feelings that I have. I have talked in previous episodes about being an overfeeler instead of an overthinker. So I'm feeling a lot, and the people closest to me in my life, my closest friends, my kids, my husband, they have to deal with that all the time. So I thought I would share the wealth and share my feelings with all of you. And you guys seem to be interested, so it's keeping me going. Question number 7. Benefits of meditation. Any advice for people who think they can't meditate? Some people tell me running is their meditation. Is that as beneficial? Okay, well, first of all, I love meditation. And I think that when I hear people say that they don't think they can do it, I just feel like they're putting way too much pressure on themselves, or that they have a specific way that they think about meditation, and that particular way isn't something that they can do. A lot of times people think about meditation of just sitting in a corner and closing your eyes and try not to think about anything. Well, that's not going to work. For me, meditation could be something as simple as just taking time throughout my day to be alone and breathe and just really get out of my head and into my body and take long, deep breaths. And I do that several times a day. And even in my psychotherapy practice, my sessions are 50 minutes long on purpose. And I always have 10 minutes before each session to kind of breathe, to integrate what just happened in the previous session, and to prepare myself for the next session. And I use that tactic in all areas of my life. I definitely take time throughout the day to just focus on my breathing. And then when I have more time, I will go for long walks in nature. That's meditation for me. So I would really recommend that people who say that they can't meditate, just get out of the house. It doesn't have to be in your house, just sitting staring at the walls. I had a client who used to call it belly button gazing. You don't have to do that. You can go out and just be with yourself. Just be with yourself. You don't have to listen to music on your walk. You don't have to listen to a podcast even on your walk. You can just be one with nature. And to me, that's meditation. So the second part of the question, some people tell me running is their meditation. Is that as beneficial? Well, anyone that knows me also knows I do not run. I would never run, even if you paid me $1,000 a day. I would not do it. So I can't speak from personal experience about running and meditation. However, I do have many people in my life who are runners, and I have had many, many clients that are runners. And I can tell you that while I think it is wildly beneficial, I think that, they always refer to it as their therapy. They love to run to, run off steam. And if they're anxious, if they're depressed, they like to run. So I think it's beneficial. And of course, there's physical benefits, obviously, as well. But do I think it's meditation? No, I do not. I do not believe for a minute that it's meditation, because every runner I've ever known is always thinking about beating their time from yesterday, or they feel guilty if they don't run. I mean, meditation has nothing to do with any of those things. There's no competition. There's no feeling guilty. There's just being with yourself and letting it be enough. So I don't consider running meditation, even though I know that for many people, it feels like therapy to them. I would call it more therapy than meditation if I had to pick something. Okay, question number 8. How has this podcast extended your reach to others compared to your practice and your book? Well, as I said earlier, my practice is small by design, so I only see 10 to 12 people, I would say, on average a week. My book, luckily, did reach far more people, and that's the reason I wrote the book, because not everybody can afford therapy, or not everyone is a great candidate for therapy. But the book is a super cheap way to get a lot of therapy. It's only $20. And I would say it's a couple years worth of therapy in there. So I highly recommend you read it. But the podcast has reached other countries. I'm very excited to share many other countries. It's in Mexico and Europe, France, I think it is, and Israel and Canada and Ireland. I have quite the following in Ireland. I don't know how they found the podcast, but they did. And I get about 80 to 120, 150 listeners per week. So I'm super excited about that. That makes me really happy. Next question, number 9. Do you view social media as a tool that is doing more to help or hurt our fractured nature? Our fractured nation, I think that's supposed to say. Certainly it hurts. I think for sure it hurts far more than it helps. I don't think that it set out to be hurtful. I think it was originally, there was really great intentions around the internet and social media and all those things about staying connected and being informed. But it has certainly taken a dark, dark, dark turn, hasn't it? On so many levels. We're now more in our phones than we are talking to each other, and really dark forces are finding each other and strengthening and organizing. So I don't think it's a good thing. And I say that as somebody who's on Instagram and Facebook and all of those things. And I fantasize all the time about getting off of them. And I think, oh, it would be so great, if I could just get off of all social media. And I just did my podcast. And then I think, well, how would I ever advertise my podcast? It's just all so intertwined. But to answer the question, no, I don't think it's helpful at all. It's definitely hurt. Number 10, how do you manage your fear that the current administration may not leave? And do I believe that there is a possibility that they won't leave, that they really won't leave? I had that fear at one time. I don't have that fear anymore. I really believe that President-elect Biden has a plan. I don't know what the plan is. He has not shared it with me. But I look at him, it's like Mr. Rogers always said, look for the helpers when you're in a dark time. Well, I keep looking to Joe Biden in the same way that I look to flight attendants when there's a lot of turbulence. Are you freaked out? Because if you're not freaked out, I'm not going to be freaked out. And I keep looking at Joe Biden. I keep looking at his eyes, and he does not look worried. And so I'm going with that, and I'm trusting the process. And I believe that Trump will leave office. Um, and I don't think that he'll go kicking and screaming at the very end, because he'll find a way to have power in it. He's not going to be humiliated being pulled from the Oval Office, in resistance. I really believe that he will find a way to say, I'm too good for this country, or I'm too good. I don't know. I don't know what he'll say, but I think that he'll leave on his own terms in some way. Okay, question number 11. Do you have any understanding on why so many people in this country voted for such a reprehensible person? I do not. I wish I did. I do not. I have had many conversations with friends recently who have tried to explain it to me, and it has helped. I have some ideas. I have one friend who's always talking to me about the capitalist society that we're living in, and that people are only interested in money, and they turn a blind eye to anything that isn't about making themselves richer. So I think that's one group. I think there is clearly a racist group. That's obvious. But then I have another friend who talks to me about evangelical Christians, who often talks about that they're just as afraid of us taking away their liberties as we are afraid of them taking away ours. And I'm just sort of beginning to understand some of that, but I don't feel clear about it at all, which is why I'm really hoping to have a Trump supporter on my podcast next week. As of this recording, which is on Wednesday, prior to when it's broadcast on Sunday, I don't have anybody. I had a couple people reach out, but nobody has made the commitment yet. And I really want everyone to know that it's going to be a really safe conversation. This is not going to be me grilling a Trump supporter. It's really going to be a safe conversation where I really seek to understand their perspective, and I would like them to be open and interested in hearing mine. So we'll be doing a lot of mirroring exercises. For those of you who have ever been in couples counseling, you know what mirroring is, really making sure that the other side is heard. So I'm hoping for that. If you know of anybody, please send them my way. They can email me at robinsnestpodcast123@gmail.com and let me know that they're interested. Okay, number 12. When your children are little and they agree to an activity or a class, but then they change their mind and don't want to do it anymore, do you let them quit or make them honor their commitment? That's a great question. So I'll give you my short answer, and then I'll give you my longer explanation. My short answer is let them quit. And I know that's going to surprise a lot of people because I for sure honor my commitments. I very much want my children to honor their commitments, and I've taught them to honor their commitments. But to me, there's a difference between honoring a commitment, like I promised my aunt that I would have lunch with her, or I promised my friend that I would call her at 4, or I promised to clean my room on Saturday. Those are the kinds of commitments that I want my children to honor, once they make that commitment. But when it comes to sports or drama or singing or any extracurricular activity, I feel like childhood is all about trying things out and seeing what fits. And if my child came home and hated an activity that they thought that they might like but didn't, I would just say, okay, it's fine. I don't think that our children should be shamed or made to feel wrong or badly about the fact that they thought that they might like something and then they decided that they didn't like it. That's what childhood's all about, figuring all this stuff out. And I think that we want our children to go into themselves and to trust their own feelings. And I think it starts by us honoring their feelings. So if my child said that they didn't want to participate in something, I would say, okay. Okay, so that's number 12. Number 13. How will this COVID time of quarantine impact children's mental health? I love this question because Your children are going to be absolutely fine because of COVID, as long as, God willing, they don't get sick, of course, which most children are not, but they're going to be fine. They're going to catch up academically. Don't worry about it. They're going to catch up socially. Don't worry about it. You don't need to worry about any of those things. There is something that you definitely need to worry about. And the thing you need to worry about is the relationship that you have with your children during this time. That is what they will remember when they are 30, 40, 50, 70 years old. They will be asked, what was it like during the pandemic of 2020? And you don't want them to say, all I can remember was that my mom was drunk most of the time. Or all I can remember is that my mom or dad were out of control. They were fighting constantly. Or, they were always mad at me. Or they were always frustrated with me. Or they were always unhappy with themselves. Those are the things that your children are going to remember forever. They are not going to remember that they missed a year of algebra or that they didn't get to see their friends for a few months. They will recover from that. Kids are incredibly resilient, incredibly resilient. Trust them, trust them, trust the process. And put all of your energy into taking care of yourself and keeping yourself sober and keeping yourself present, because children do not feel safe with parents who are intoxicated. And I am hearing about the drug use and the alcohol use skyrocketing during this time. I'm hearing it from children. I'm hearing parents readily admit it. And confess to it and think it's funny because, we're home, we don't have to drive anywhere, we might as well. Well, it is having an impact on your children. So you can take that for what it's worth. I am not a drinker, so you can take that with a grain of salt if you want to, but I am speaking from a place of having worked with people for 30 years, and I know what affects them and what doesn't affect them. And it does affect them deeply when you are not present and calm. Those are the things that children most need. Everything else they will recover from. There's one more thing that I want to say about coping with COVID. One pattern that I've seen in my practice is that the people that are struggling the most with COVID are struggling because they're kind of white knuckling it, waiting to get back to normal. And at the risk of stating the obvious, there is no going back to normal. This is not going away, and life as we knew it before COVID is not returning. So I think that COVID is a great gift if we can use it as such, to reassess our lives, to reprioritize our time, to figure out how we want to move forward in this new way of being in the world. And I think that if we can acknowledge what is instead of acknowledging what we wish was, we would be coping much, much better. And I know that the people that are in my life who are able to embrace the uncertainty of COVID, and they almost feel relieved with COVID because it has given them a pass, for all things that they didn't really want to do before. And now they get to just say, oh, I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. Oh, no, I'm not doing Christmas this year. Oh, no play dates. And it's just a time to kind of center ourselves and reassess what we need from a self-care perspective, and what our children need, and what our marriage needs, and how do we want to move forward in our lives. So I really encourage everybody who is struggling with COVID to use this time in a different way, and to really pay attention to acknowledging what is. Iyanla Vanzant, who I like very much and quote often says, when we argue against reality, we suffer. When we argue against reality, we suffer. There is a reality to COVID, and the more we argue it, the more we will suffer. And the more we can embrace it, the more at ease we will be. Okay, number 14. So this is a perfect segue, actually. And like I said, I didn't organize these. I just am taking them in the order that they came in. How do you recommend parents take care of themselves during the pandemic? So since I'm strongly encouraging you to stop drinking, I would really love to see you again, full circle back to meditation. I would really like to see you taking care of yourself in a much healthier way. Walking, walking in nature, taking a bath, deep breathing, um, watch some Netflix, go on date nights with your husband, go to the beach for the day, hire babysitters, have a quarantine, as they say, and have babysitters and childcare workers as part of your quarantine, and go out of the house. Just leave the house. You need a break. You cannot be confined to your home all the time. We've had some beautiful weather. You can easily take a day trip to the beach and sit by yourself and read a book. Those are the kinds of things that I recommend that you do to take care of yourselves during this pandemic. And eat healthy food and limit sugar, which is not easy. I have a sugar problem myself, but I'm really working on it. Okay, number 15. What strategies do you recommend dealing with COVID and bad thoughts in general? Well, I sort of answered the COVID question. Bad thoughts in general concern me. If you feel like you're going to hurt yourself, if you're feeling, really depressed, I urge you to seek counseling immediately. And if you're really feeling like hurting yourself and you have a plan, please go to your nearest emergency room. Okay. Number 16, what's my favorite episode of Robin's Nest? This is very difficult. I cannot answer this question. I have loved all of them, and that's the truth. That is honestly the truth. I think that they all have offered something very different, and they've all brought me great joy. So I do not have a favorite. I guess it's like kids. You don't have a favorite. So that's that. Number 17, when is your husband coming on? I think we've addressed this. I get it, people. You want to meet my husband. You will. In fact, if I don't have a Trump supporter for next week's episode, maybe I will just bring him on next week. We'll see. And if not next week, certainly very, very soon. And the last question that I have is, would I ever consider running for a political office to enact change? I laughed out loud when I got this one. There is absolutely no way that I would ever run for political office. Larry has a cousin, Justin Cohen, who is into that, and he has run for political office, and I have nothing but respect for him and for anybody that wants to do it. It is not for me. I don't have the game playing that you have to be a politician. I'm much more a straight shooter, super honest. People call me the honesty police. There is no way that I would be able to navigate the political scene with my personality. So instead, I am going to work on a micro level in my personal life and my professional life, and on a macro level with this podcast, and hope that I can enact change in that way. And with that, I think we have finished all the questions. Thank you, everyone, for submitting them. I really appreciate that. You can watch this video by searching on YouTube for Robin's Nest Podcast. And please follow me on Instagram at Robins_Nest_pod. And with that, I will see you later. Bye.